Hi guys, and welcome back to Leslie Through the Looking Glass. For those of you that are new here, hi, my name is Leslie. I'm so happy to have you here. For my returning viewers, as always, thank you so much for your continued support. It means the world to me. Alright guys, welcome back. It is another Mental Health Monday. I am going to apologize right now if my lighting is crazy, but we actually have some sunshine out right now, so I have all my blinds open, letting the sun in the house, just trying to get a little brightness in here. So I also have my light on to try to help, but if I'm really washed out looking or something, I do apologize. It is not super nice looking in the backyard with all the snow melting in the mud, but that's okay. It's sunny. Still pretty cold. I think we're in the low 30s, but a little bit of sunshine is better than nothing. Alright guys, today's video, I'm going to go over a little bit about therapy. I had a couple people reach out with some questions, some kind of broad and some a little bit more specific. So I was just going to share a little bit of my personal experience with therapy and kind of my experience. So if anybody else is thinking about going that route or has any questions or is uncomfortable with it, this might help a little bit. But yeah, so the first thing that was asked, the first question that was posed to me that was kind of in timeline order here, I guess, of how I would like to go over things is what made me decide to go to therapy. And I've mentioned this in a previous video, but if you're newer or just as a reminder of how this journey started for me, I was having a lot of physical manifestations of my anxiety. What did that mean for me? I had horrible headaches all day, every day. I never went a day without a headache. I usually woke up with them. I had memory loss. Couldn't remember coworkers' names that I've worked with every day for 7 years. I would have to go input a name and would have to look at the list to trigger the memory of that name. I was, very forgetful. I would be told something and forget it instantly. I wasn't retaining that information, stuff like that. It was very scary. I started getting some blurred vision even. I was joking when I said it, but also kind of scared I might be serious, that I had something wrong with my brain or I thought it was a medical issue. So I went to the doctor. We ruled out any major medical things through blood work. And when she called to go over my blood work and talk about next steps, she said medically the next thing we would do would be some sort of I forget if she said CAT scan or MRI or whatever, to look for issues in my brain. But after she had spoken to me in our appointment, she was very confident that it wasn't a medical issue. In that appointment, I had my daughter with me. She was just about a year old at that point, or a little over a year. And in our conversation, she picked up that she thought I would be dealing maybe with some postpartum depression or anxiety. And, a lot of that did sort of start to click after being mentioned for me, because I noticed I was sick to my stomach every day leaving for work. I was worried about something happening to her when I wasn't around. Even though she was with the only people I would have trusted in that scenario. She was either with my husband or one of our moms. So she said, my medical doctor said she would suggest therapy first. And then dependent on how that went, how I was feeling, potentially some sort of medication. Now, I have been to therapy in the past. I've also been put on medication in the past. So I've had experience with both. I really wanted to avoid medication if possible. Now, that being said, that is a completely personal decision. I think that medical intervention in the form of medication is often needed and very helpful for people. I had a really bad experience the previous time I got put on medication with terrible side effects. I was so sick. even beyond the 2 weeks that they said I would experience the symptoms. I did everything they told me to do to minimize, and I just could not do it. So I really wanted to avoid that, because for a lot of people, it is a hit or miss and like trial and error. There's not a great way. Some people luck out and get, a great fit for medication right away. Other people, it takes a couple tries. And I really just didn't want to do that unless I had to. That being said, I was not saying no to medication if that's what everybody thought was most needed. Doctors and therapists know much more than me. So, I was hopeful that I didn't need it though. And like I said, no judgments against people that do. And I've taken it before, so it wasn't anything, like that. I just was really hopeful that I could work through my own problems. And that it was just scenario specific and not overall. So that is how I started therapy. Now, like I said, I've done therapy a couple times in the past, so I was much more comfortable going into it, I think, than somebody who would be going for the first time. I remember when I went for the first time, I was terrified. And that is another thing that I think is scary, because it's not always a great fit. I did a lot of research on therapists and had reached out asking for input from other people who maybe had used therapists, especially for anxiety or postpartum issues. Like I said, because that's what I believed all of it kind of stemmed around, was having my daughter. Now, after going to therapy, we realize, that wasn't the case. But I had done my research. I found a therapist that I thought maybe would be a good fit, scheduled an appointment. I was very lucky. I hit it off right away with her. I felt very comfortable. But you won't always have that. The first time I went to therapy, I was very uncomfortable. I did not feel like the person that I was speaking to was listening or showing any sort of emotion or compassion for me. And the first time I went to therapy was about a miscarriage. So I felt very isolated and did not feel like that was a good scenario and a good situation for me to stay in. I switched to a different therapist and had a much better experience. So you have to be aware if this is something you're going into. I do recommend a lot of research, reading reviews, as to like what people saw them for that had positive outcomes, and finding somebody that is specific to what you're looking for. The other thing for me that I felt really fit was this person, she was a mom. That was a big thing for me. That made me way more comfortable, that maybe my feelings would be understood and that they could help me weed out normal mom stuff versus anxiety. So that was, that I started over a year ago now, before COVID life. And like I said, I was very lucky. I had several sessions. The first one was mostly me just crying and word vomiting everything that was on my plate. And then by the second session, we started like separating out stuff to focus on. And working on like broad techniques that could be applied to multiple things. And then, as sessions went on, we got very specific into things and new things would come up. But yeah, so that is kind of what my journey was getting there. And, and of course there's lots that I had to find out who wasn't covered by my insurance and all of that kind of stuff. But like I said, I got very lucky. I found a good fit right off the bat. I'm very grateful for her. I started going. The other question was, how often was I going, or am I going? So in the beginning, I was going 2 times a month, every other week. And it was near my parents' home, so it worked out well. They offered to watch my daughter for me while I went. So I would drop her off, go to therapy, come home, pick her up. We'd eat our lunch and fit that into our routine pretty well. And then after, I want to say 2-ish months of going every other week, we spread it out to like every 3 weeks. We even went to every 4. Then I took a break when COVID hit and everything went to telehealth. I was not comfortable with that concept. I did not like it. I did not feel like that was something that was going to fit well. So I kind of said, let's wait it out. Like, I think I'm in an okay place. I'll call back and schedule something if I get to a bad point. But as things went on, she did keep in touch with me. And we realized this was going to be this way. For a while, they were just shut down altogether also because some insurances only allow like medical doctors, like psychiatrists and stuff, to do telehealth. And so it was like a thing with insurances that the states had to like send these bills through during COVID for COVID relief that they could cover these telehealth appointments, stuff like that. So after a couple months, I did start doing telehealth, which I do feel like if you are new to going to therapy, telehealth would probably be a challenge to start. Just because talking on a screen to somebody you don't know is just a little bit strange. But I ultimately really liked it. They're still doing it that way, and I will be sad the day that changes, to be quite honest. It just fit into my life so much easier. I didn't have to drive half an hour, take my daughter somewhere. I could schedule around nap times or, when somebody else was home. So it ended up working great, and I have been doing that. Now I switched insurances, so I have not had a session in a little bit. We are working on figuring something out because my insurance does not cover my current therapist, but I also have just no desire to start over with somebody new. I mean, obviously, if I have to, I have to. But I also feel like I haven't been in a while, and I'm still, doing okay most days. But yeah. So those were kind of, I think, covered most of the questions. Like I said, it's going to be very different for each person. And it's not always like a great fit right off the bat. And the other big thing is you have to want to be there and do the work. They will help you, but they can only work with whatever information you share with them. And so it's important to go in and be raw and explain everything that's going on, or share, all of your experience, because otherwise it's not going to do you good and it's going to be a waste of your time. That's my biggest thing I would pass along if this is something you're considering. Just go in and be brutally honest and raw. They're not going to tell anybody anything you share with them. They can't. I mean, it's not legal unless there's some very specific things for like endangerment or murder, stuff like that. But otherwise, like, they're not going to tell anybody anything. This is their job. I promise you they've heard worse than whatever you're about to say. You're not going to shock them. So just keep that in mind and go in to it with a very, heartfelt experience. And you're going to get out of it what you put into it. If you don't want to try to implement the tools they give you, if you don't want to work on things, it's not going to do you any good, and it's going to be a waste. And I think, people have to get to that point before they want to try this. I also think that therapy is a huge tool for anybody. I think every person should go to therapy at some point in their life, whether it's for a specific event or just because. I think it's really helpful in communicating. Like, even if you might not communicate, like communication problems with loved ones or whatever, like, it might not help with that, but it helps you communicate your feelings to someone else. And if you're not explaining something well, you'll learn how to explain, what you're going through. I think you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot of coping mechanisms, or, learn things that you were doing, finding patterns, stuff like that. Like I said, I went into this thinking 100% my anxiety started after having my child. And looking back and after talking about things and experiences, like, I had stuff going on back at least to when I was in high school. So it's a journey, and I think it would help everybody in some way or another. So I do think it's a great thing. If it's something you're considering and you're willing to try it and like put effort in, I think it is a great thing for people. So that was a question, like, would I recommend that to anybody? I would recommend therapy to everyone. I think it's great as long as you're willing to be honest and do the work. Trying to think if I think that covered pretty much everything. Trying to remember. I had a list, and of course, I have no idea where I put it. But yeah, so I think that covers about everything that was asked, with a little bit of explanation of just everything else. I don't know. Like I said, we've been spreading out my sessions as time has gone on to about every 4 weeks. Right now I'm a little beyond because, like I said, I switched insurance and we're trying to figure that out. But, you know, I also feel like if it's not as regular, I have most of the tools now. It just takes a little bit extra off my plate. Or if something specific comes up, it's helpful to discuss. But yeah, I think that's everything when it comes to therapy. If you guys have any other questions about my experience with therapy, or my resources on how I researched, because I will tell you let me just touch base on this now because this was something I learned. A typical Google search in your area for therapists or stuff like that is not helpful. I would not recommend that at all. I had a very difficult time finding any information. I will link the website below, but there is a website that is like all mental health related, psychologists, therapists, stuff like that. And I can't think of it right now. I want to say it's usapsychologist.com or something along those lines. But I will link it down below. And that is honestly what had been really helpful for me, finding actual usable reviews, having a lot of information in one place. You can search by your location or your specific type of doctor, what you're looking for. And that was actually what was referred to me through my therapist when I was looking for other resources. So I highly recommend that, and I will link that down below for anybody who's looking, because like I said, Google is not your friend when you're searching for this. But yeah, that is the other thing. But yeah, like I said, I highly recommend it. My experience was incredibly positive. My previous experience, once I found somebody I was comfortable with, was incredibly positive as well. And I think anybody could benefit as long as you're willing to do the work. All right, guys, any other questions down below about this topic or anything in general that you feel like you would like me to touch base on? Put it in the comments down below. If you have any stories or helpful hints about how you found a therapist or mental health help like that, also drop those below. I'd love any sort of help and feedback I can get. Otherwise, guys, I will be back Saturday. I was hoping I would have an unboxing for you. I am still waiting on my Main Street mail, which I thought would be here by now. A shipping label got printed over a week ago, and it's just sitting there, it looks like. So, I do not know. If not, I do have like a Disney tag that I might do, or who knows, maybe something totally off the wall that I haven't done yet. And then next week, I will be back with another Mental Health Monday. I think the plan is to talk a little bit about the other tools that I implement to kind of work through things. I use some essential oils and stuff like that. So I just I'm going to touch base on a little bit of the holistic things that I've tried or done, what has and hasn't worked for me, that kind of thing. Yeah, and I think that's what's coming up. I have hit 170 on my subscribers, so if you haven't already, please hit subscribe down below. I'm already thinking ahead to 200, which is still quite a ways away. I'm not getting too crazy yet, but I definitely have something up my sleeve for when we reach that, which is super exciting. Disney-wise, I have a Coco inspired box. Hopefully that'll be shipping soon, as well as an Alice in Wonderland inspired box. I'm really excited for both of those. But yeah, so I will see you guys Saturday. I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Enjoy your sunshine if you have it. And just let's go into this week with a great attitude, and hopefully just make it through. I just want to thank you guys for continuing to watch. This video is a little bit longer, so if you've hung in here to the end, thank you so much. Please give this video a thumbs up and like if you enjoyed this content. Hit subscribe down below with the bell notifications to alert you anytime I post new content. As always, you guys are awesome, and I just hope everybody has a great week. I'll see you Saturday. Bye, guys.